Hello again. Okay, section 1 people. Here we go. Here's section 1 from the instructions, and so let's have a look at it. All right, you're going to work to identify your organism. So section 1 is all about justifying the identification. I'm going to tell you what I think it is. You're going to read about what it should look like if it really is that thing, and then you are going to check my work. Because honestly, there are a lot of fossils out there, and people make mistakes, including me. And being able to justify something is a big key part of science because other good scientists won't believe you unless you can back it up with some facts and references. So that's what we're going to do. And so, as it says here, we're going to use references that I will add to Blackboard to help you. And so for Paragasezochrinus, I would have given you the paper called Moore and Plummer 1939, blah, 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 crinoids from Texas. And so I've got that one open over here. And so what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to, let's see, look at Paragasezochrinus, and let's find this thing. Okay, so we'll go through all the references to where this is in the paper. And there we go. So this is going to be what it's going to look like when you get to your fossil. You're going to have a diagnosis, and so it's going to have the genus, and it's going to say what the genus is, and so that should match the name of the genus of your fossil. And then it's going to say who made the genus, who actually ended up describing the genus. And so in this case, it's Moore and Plummer, and it's a new genus. That's what NGen means. And so that means this is the paper right here, right now, where they actually describe this thing for everybody to read about forever after. So that's kind of neat. And so right below that, they'll have a list of synonyms. So synonyms are other names that this fossil has had in the past. Most fossils are going to be found by more than one person in more than one place. And so somebody may have found this thing but thought it was something else or thought it belonged to a different group. And until Moore and Plummer came along and sorted this out, we thought this was an Agaseocrinus instead of a Paragaseocrinus. So there we go. We've arrived at the future. Paragaseocrinus, this is the current name. And so then it goes on to tell you exactly what is it that makes this thing, what is a Paragaseocrinus. And so it says it's going to have a lot of words in here, and so you're going to end up looking up a lot of these words. So the genus is made up of elongate, so long and skinny, like tall, conical, cone-shaped, crinoids, and you can read about what crinoids are. They're echinoderms, relatives of something like a starfish or a sea urchin. But they filter feed. They have these little tiny arms that wave around and little tiny tube feet that move food along 5 different grooves in toward a mouth. So they've got basically 5 conveyor belts feeding them at all times, which is pretty cool. Okay, having no stem at maturity, so their babies may have had a little stem, like a lot of their old relatives did, but when this thing is all grown up, it appears to have no stem whatsoever. And so this is a thing that's going to live kind of stuck in the mud. It's just going to be sort of sitting on the bottom of the sea. And then it's going to go into different parts. And so you're going to have to learn about what is an anal plate, what is an infrabasal, and so the infrabasal are going to be the bottom row of plates. So the plates on this thing are basically like the bones. They actually match up pretty well with the bones in a human skull. And so they each have names based on their position. The infrabasals are the bottom, and the basals come next, and then the radials are on top of those. But all these facts are going to be different depending on exactly what you're looking at, so I'm not going to get into all the details here. So another thing to look for in the genus description is going to be the genotype. And so the genotype tells you which individual species, individual sample even, is going to be the one that this genus is based on. And this genus happens to be based on Agaseocrinus strimple, which is the one that has now been moved to Paragaseocrinus terrai strimple. So that's actually the one that we have in front of us. That's the one that we're going to be looking at. And so it goes on to talk further. So the discussion is pretty useful because it's going to tell you how this genus looks like or looks different from other genera of similar things, other genuses of a similar kind of organism. And so that's going to be useful information. Now the stuff that you want the species description. So we're going to go down here to, bam, our species. So mine is Paragaseocrinus terrai. And so it's going to say that the first person who actually made this description was a guy called Strimple, and that's great. He's a Harold Strimple. And it's going to say where you can find a picture of this species, which is really nice. And so that's going to be a picture in this same paper, and so it's going to be plate 1, figure 6. And if we go all the way down to the end, sure enough, here's, that's a little too far. There we go, plate 1, figure 6, so there's plate 1, figure 6. Scroll down to the bottom, and bam, 6A and 6B. Look at those. So this is our little guy. This is basically the bottom of the crinoid. It would have had arms that stick up a little further that would catch the food. But when these things died, their bones weren't really held together by anything, and the bones just usually fall apart. And generally, we only find the very bottom little cup here. It's sort of the biggest, most durable part. That's the one that tends to fossilize. So there's a picture of it here, and if we were searching through, we would also find a picture of it here. Plate 16, number 9, and there it is at the bottom. That's a nice little side view looking at the thing. So that's what our little creature looks like. Okay. And, yeah. And so this is a nice one because it's giving you a little description of what this thing is. So we've got our infrabasals, which are all glued together. Normally they're 5 different plates or bones, but here they're smashed into one. And there are our different basals, and here are our radials. And there's a special X plate that marks where the anus or back end of this particular crinoid would have been. And then we have the start of the arms here because they tend to fall off. And I think when this was being described, they didn't know exactly what the arms looked like. They'd found little pieces of them but didn't have them joined up, so they couldn't be completely sure how they fit on. But the thing that you want is going to be, let's see, it's going to be our description. There we go, pteri. So this is the part, description. So you're going to want to see exactly what is it. So it has which plates. Okay, so it's bluntly rounded at the base, so it's kind of rounded off. These have been described as looking kind of like a bullet that's been fired and sort of hit something and flattened out a little bit, like a smushed bullet shape. And it's going to tell you how tall they should be, and it's going to tell you what, so sort of cone-shaped if the cone was at about a 65-degree angle. So you can get out your protractor and you can measure your fossil and make sure it matches up with that. That'd be a good thing to do. And it goes on and tells about all the different parts. So all the parts in here are things that you want to be looking for and you want to be talking about in section 1. And you're going to say, okay, my particular fossil, so here's my particular fossil here, how does this thing resemble what you have in the figures down here and what we have in the description here? That's the purpose. So let's go back and read over our section 1. So compare your fossil to its published description. That's exactly what we're going to do. And the photo of your fossil in that description. And that's exactly what we just looked at. So cool. And yeah, you're going to have to look up and learn a whole bunch of new scientific terms that'll usually be real specific to your particular fossil. Like everything has parts. If you've taken anatomy and physiology, you know there are a heckload of parts in the human body, and oh my goodness, don't they all have names. Okay, so you're going to find as many parts of the fossil that you can spot that match your description, and you're going to try and match them up. And then you're going to include a small photo of your fossil and a small photo of the same fossil from the scientific description. So let's do that. So we're going to get something like PowerPoint, or you can do this in one of the online things. There's Slides is the equivalent of PowerPoint that's part of, what do they call that Google thing? It's the free thing like Google Docs. Basically, Slides is another part of that. Or you can use that Microsoft 365 and you can access PowerPoint online. That works just as well. Anyway, you're going to start out by selecting some kind of blank presentation in any case. There we go. And so that's lovely. And I usually don't like to work with their templates because they're garbage for what we're trying to do. Okay, and so here we've got this, and so let's get a little screen capture. You're going to have to learn how to do screen capture on your computer. So on mine, it's going to be a program called Screenshot, but it's going to be different on whatever it is. And so unfortunately, because I didn't think to take these on a neutral background, we're going to have my big ugly face stuck right behind this fossil. Oh well. Capture it, boom, paste it in. Oops, paste it in. Oh yeah. Okay, let's set our capture settings correctly. Nope, cancel. Try this one more time. There we go. Nope, sorry. Again, there we go. Now do screenshot. Screenshot. And let's check our options, and let's save that to the clipboard. That's a nice thing. Okay, now we can capture it, and now when we paste it, we will get the picture. Yay! Okay, so there is our picture. And then we have to do the same thing with that paper. So the paper's back here. So let's go down and get our picture from the paper. Paragasiocrinus, terrai. Let's see, I like the ones in figure 1 better. So let's go back up to plate 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go, plate 1, figure 6. And so let's do a nice job. Let's not be lazy screenshotters. And there we go, screenshot. Just the things that we want, and not the giant crinoid in the middle. So there we go. And you know what, if I could easily crop off 6A, I would, but there's no good way to do that, so it's not important. We can keep that. So let's capture that guy, and we'll paste him in. Bam. Great. And let's capture this guy, and so another screenshot for us. Screenshot. And looking good. And make that a little bigger. There we go. And capture. All right. Okay, and then to turn this thing into a figure, we need to put on panels. So we'll make little things that say like A and B and C. And copy, paste. Here we go. So let's do A and B. And so we'll trashy. Let's actually align them just to make it look pretty. There we go. It's a little alignment tool, and we can align these guys as well. Align. Let's align the middles. There we go. That's a nice sort of tight look. Okay, and so that's going to be a good little figure. So we can save this thing as a figure. You can either copy these things directly into your report. You can group them. So you can highlight them all. Here, let's ungroup those. So you can highlight them all, and then every one of these programs has some way to group things, even like an open office. And so you can group them together, and then they just all move together and get resized together and everything. And so now you can cut this and copy it, and let's paste it right into a nice brand new report. And bam, there it is. And then let's resize that so it fits on the page. And this is looking a little ugly. It looks like I need to pull these things down because I can't see. Aha, I can't see my little letters. Let's make those a little bigger. There we go. That looks better. Okay. And then it's not a good figure unless it has a good figure legend. And so let's put this up here, and I'll show you how to make a figure legend. So a figure legend starts with the word figure, and then you give it a number. And so since this is part 1, it's probably going to be figure 1, so let's call it figure 1. Then the first sentence of this thing is going to be a title that doesn't necessarily have to be a complete sentence, but you're still going to capitalize it and put a period at the end as if it was a complete sentence. So we're going to call this images of Paragases, Ocrinus terrai, something like that. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay, and then we're going to have a description where we are going to describe what we're looking at. So this is going to be specimens, and my C key doesn't work at the moment, so we have to actually insert a letter C. No, we have to go and copy a letter C from somewhere. There we go. Yeah, time for a new computer, I think. Copy. All right. And there we go. So, images of Pagacizocrinus terrai. And with genus and species, binomial nomenclature, we always make those italics. So here we go. And so to do italics, it'll be different on each one. Mine has a little button right there you can click to make it work. And so it's just those two. You don't have to put family or anything else in italics, just genus and species. And so the first, or rather specimens. And so the first time you use it, you have to spell it out, full thing. Second time you use it, you're allowed to abbreviate the genus as just the first initial and a dot. Now, if you end up talking about more than one genus in the same paragraph and both genera have the same starting initial, then don't do this. Just spell it out completely both times. But yeah, as long as you're only talking about one genus, which should be the case for most of these, then that is a great way to save a little bit of space. So from, and in this case, we'll figure out where they're from. And I'm going to move this down one line. There we go. From the, and we'll name the formation. So this is going to be the Upper Salesville formation. And it's going to be located along Highway TX337 Okay, and then we need to say that that's panel A, so let's do panel A is this, and then we'll say panel B is going to be from Moore and, who was the other author on that? Moore and Plummer in 1939. Because we want to make sure we cite our sources. And we'll write it out completely here, but then we'll put a reference here, and so the reference is going to be, that'll be our first reference that we've used, so just make it reference 1, and we'll make sure that we go back and get all of these things nice and italic. Boom. And so a little paragraph talking about your fossil and exactly how your little infrabasal plates match up, and a figure, something like that, and a little figure legend. Those together are figure 1, and for extra coolness, most people will make the figure 1 and that first little descriptive thing bold, and the rest of it will not be bold. So that's how it's done. That's the end of section 1. And yeah, I would say get to looking stuff up, because you're going to have a lot of things that you need to look up. But it's not too bad. Not too bad a section. All right. Thank you.